Priya, thank you so much. I thought we were going to have a break, but you're here right now. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Can you hear me okay?
I can. Thank you so much for joining us. Priya, can you real quick tell us about what is FourKites and what's going on over there?
Sure. So, FourKites is a real-time supply chain visibility provider. So we work with the largest shippers in the world. You've heard of many of them, ranging from Coca-Cola and Cardinal Health to Walmart Canada and a bunch of others. And what we do for all of these shippers is to provide real-time visibility into really the important goods that they're shipping, and so that's what FourKites is focused on.
It's just released a really big announcement when it comes to real-time visibility for air cargo, which can sometimes be a tricky thing to have visibility on. You got an airplane and you know where it is, but what is your cargo doing in there? Talk to us a little bit about what's going on with Dynamic ETA for air.
Well, thank you so much, Kaylee. Yes, you're right. This was a major launch for us and a big announcement. So, FourKites, of course, as I mentioned, we track freight across all modes of transportation, right? Air, ocean, full truckload, LTL, rail, and so the biggest, I'd say, I've been at the company for 5 years. And the biggest evolution, really, that I have seen in our journey has been the investment that we've made as a company in data science, right? And data science, obviously, as a technology, super interesting as a field in technology. This has been certainly the biggest area of investment for FourKites, and the latest announcement that we just made, was that we are now able to provide what is called a predictive ETA for air freight. And so you might say, well, why is that a big deal, right? And a couple of reasons. First off, when you step back and say, why is a predictive ETA even important? It's important because when you think about it, what that really means is, I'm able to predict with some level of accuracy when it is that the important freight that a shipper is sending from point A to point B is going to actually get there. And when it comes to air, the cost, as an example, it is, of course, the most important mode of transportation. And that, by definition, means that you're using it because whatever it is that you're transporting needs to get there extremely fast. It is high value freight. And so there's a lot literally, riding on this. And it can cost, importantly, easily 4 to 5 times that of, for example, an ocean container. And yet you'd be surprised to know, especially as passengers, right? When we think about it, it's like, yeah, my airline's not great at giving me visibility, but for the most part, I know when stuff is going to show up. I know when a flight is going to land. But when it comes to just cargo freight, you don't have that kind of visibility because it can frequently go through as many as 3 hub airports, right? At least one, but usually, 3 hub airports. And so what you'll frequently see is they can tell you when it's going to get to Charlotte, if that's your hub. But what you won't know is, well, when is it going to get to my end customer? And so importantly, we're now able to predict for literally all of the freight airports in the world, all 16,000 of them, as it turns out, we're able to make a prediction on when it is your freight is actually going to get there. So let me pause and see what other questions I can answer, Kaylee.
So, Priya, one of the big things that I'm really kind of captivated on, Kaylee's probably tired of hearing me talk about it, but it's technology. It seems like it's always entering the market, and I think you're a perfect example or a product of that technology. You have a rich background in tech and in data. Do you see this really just kind of continuing to pour into the market, and do you think it's all going to be kind of surrounded about visibility?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? And I do think we're going to continue to see exciting tech enter the market for sure. No question about that, right? Supply chain, as you've seen, and as I was watching the last few minutes from the last segment, right, is just incredibly dynamic. And so I think the one thing that we can be sure of, as certainly both as end consumers, as professionals in the business, is that with just the large exhaust of data exhaust that is coming into the market, right? FourKites is an example. At any time, we're tracking 2 million active loads per day. And so if you think of each of these, imagine that each of these are just a sensor, right, that's emitting data. You can think about all of the exciting applications that can be built on top of that data, right, that can be used to inform both shippers, but also even end consumers like ourselves, right, about weather or traffic disruptions or just a whole host of applications, all used to providing better customer service, right, lowering, for example, the amount of time a truck spends in the yard so it's most efficient. There's just a host of exciting applications. I absolutely think new technology, not just in visibility, but in other areas will continue to pour in.
So I've got a question about your guys' actual focus on tracking that freight. And you mentioned that you have the ability to track 100% of air freight at those 16,000 cargo airports now globally, which is a huge accomplishment. Also in this announcement, you guys talk about how you guys are accurate within a 9-hour window, which that 9 hours might seem like a pretty large window, but talk to me about in the scale of things and in the grand scheme of things, how that relates for margin of error. Is 9 hours great? Is 9 hours someplace to be improved on? Or is 9 hours just like, hey, we're here, we can see it, let's roll with it?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a fantastic question, right? Because that's the first thing you have. 9 hours, is that really a big deal? It is actually to large shippers, simply because that margin of error is now reduced by 70% on average. So the average margin of error, believe it or not, Kaylee, is 27 hours, right? Which is kind of insane when you're talking about cargo that is as expensive as certainly starting at $1,000, right? And so the margin of error is significantly lower. So it's as much as anywhere between 1.5 to 3 days, even, simply because what shippers don't have visibility. And I'll just provide you with a little bit of data, just even when I look at it over the last few weeks, right, of 25,000 shipments, more than 2/3 went through a hub airport, and of those, close to 80%, we actually had to go in and create what we call the hub airport, which basically means the shipper had no visibility into it. But what FourKites was able to do was to identify that, hey, this is actually not a direct routing from Chicago to San Francisco. It's actually going to go through 2 hubs. Let me tell you what those hubs are, and therefore, let me tell you when it's going to get there. And so that's really, we're talking about a significant margin of error. And yes, from an efficiency standpoint, because then you think downstream, right? If I have that information, now I'm in a better position to coordinate the on the ground transportation, right, from there to my end destination. Maybe it goes by rail after that, maybe it's rail and truck, but I'm in a better position to do that. And then most importantly, I'm in a better position to tell my customer when it is that it's going to get there. So that's why it matters.
I can only imagine that with all of this coming up, we need teams and teams of more and more data scientists. I know we do here at FreightWaves. Is that one of the biggest areas that you see internally that you're hiring for?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Data science is definitely our biggest, has continued to be, since I started in 2016, our primary area of, one of the biggest areas we invest in. We hire across the board, for tech, because we are very much a, cutting edge technology firm. But data science, absolutely, because one of the things that, you need for data science is a lot of data. And just given the amount of that we, data we have coming in, it's also very exciting, right? We see a lot of great talent in the industry, and we're fortunate to have many of them here at FourKites.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning, talking all about FourKites. Super, super great information, and we would love to have you again to talk to you more. I'm sure that we'll focus a little bit on FourKites, as we said, coming up for our virtual event this week. Thank you for joining us once again. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you guys for having me. Take care.